Oh, do they have a lot of ranges where you live now?
They have a couple of them. I haven't. I actually haven't got out shooting since I got here. So
Oh,
yeah, I need to get around to that. I have like a. I have a card for a range where I could go there 10 times, and I've paid for that already. So that's nice. But I was too busy. I was too busy dealing with. I mean, I got here, and then a whole bunch of car issues happened all of a sudden. So I had to
yeah.
spend a lot of money on that, and that kind of got rid of my disposable income. So no, now I've got some stuff I can probably go shooting soon. So that's on the list. I'd like to find a club like the I was part of the Austin Rifle Club, and they are a fantastic club out in Maine or near Austin in Texas. Um, ad plug, sorry, but but
Nobody's listening to this. That doesn't
no, I
matter.
guess that's true
You
too.
can plug anything. We should do an entire episode that is just commercials of things
Just
we like,
commercials, yeah.
and then we can follow it up with an episode that's just commercials of things we don't like.
Oh, that's like
Vote
positive commercials
Hillary.
that we parody it, or we do a bunch of really clever parodies or something like that. But they had Austin Rifle Club had a lot of facilities, so you could go out there and you could shoot for any time that the sun was above the horizon. You could basically go out there and shoot guns, at anything up to like 200 yards or something like that. And they had a lot of rules, but they most of the rules were pretty good, and it was a good place. They had a lot of competitions on the weekends, so I would go and shoot action pistol or steel challenge or a bullseye pistol on the weekends, which was a lot of fun.
And like all the people that you know and work with and deal with in your daily life, they're not just terrified of you. Like I mean,
Well, that's the thing is that I actually don't come across as the kind of person that likes guns. I guess like the people that were in the club, I would be like, oh yeah, and they'd be like, you're a gun person? I'm like, yeah, I love gun. I like shooting this, and I really want to pick up one of these sometime. And I do this, and I do action pistol. And they're like, you don't come across as the kind of person that likes guns. I'm like, I don't care.
I'm going to take all of what you just said, and I'm going to do an edit of this that makes it sound like you're just talking about how much you love to shoot people.
That would not be very nice, and it would probably be against YouTube's terms of service.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like when you were telling me that story about the being at City Hall, and the people were just like they were terrified at the thought of being in a room with people that were concealed carrying.
It was for when they were doing the. I mean, I was part of the students for concealed carry on campus for the 6 years that they were active in Austin, and I went to the. It was so funny because, like, first off, there was all kinds of really weird, like, nonsensical arguments against it. Like, oh, if I give someone a bad grade, they'll bring a gun and shoot me. I'm like, well, there's nothing stopping them from doing that now, right? Like the same law that they would break then, they would still be breaking after campus carry becomes legal. It's just that now, in theory, if you were also proficient with a firearm, you would also be able to carry something if you got a license and carried, which, why wouldn't you do that? But there was a lot of weird stuff going on. Like even now, one of the physics professors there is saying, "Oh, I won't allow guns in my classroom." It's like, well, that concealed is concealed. You may have a Nobel Prize in physics, but you don't seem to understand the definition of concealment. It's very weird. And it's like if you are actually afraid of your students to that degree, if your students are snapping like that easily, what's stopping them? I mean, you can put a gun in your pocket even though it's illegal and walk onto campus. I mean,
If I was that scared,
it's
of
something
my
that's physically
students,
possible.
I would just quit my job.
Well, I mean, there actually is a guy in Austin who quit because that law passed.
Oh, I mean, okay, he was obviously too
But
frightened.
it's so bizarre because it's like, well, I mean, have you ever been stabbed for you want to say to them, well, okay, so have you ever been stabbed by someone that you gave a bad grade to? Well, no, that's ridiculous. But knives are legal on campus. What? Yeah, it's just really weird, right? Like,
Well, pencils are also legal on
I would
campus,
take out
I'm
my
sure.
folding knife. I'd be like, yeah, this is legal on campus. I can carry this around all I want, and so can anybody else, including minors. Like there's no law. Like the law in Texas says anything under 5.5 inches that isn't a switchblade is cool, which is a really,
Does it actually say that in the law? Does it actually say it's cool?
it.
Because
It
it
does
should.
not say that. It should. Texas has some of the best. Texas has really good knife laws. You can carry a pretty good defensive knife if you need to, and there's nothing that anybody can say to you about it. You can carry it anywhere.
Open carry?
Oh, what was great? Okay, so I'm sorry, I got away from the thing that I was talking about, but yeah, I went to the state capitol, where they were having a hearing, and people were getting up and saying, they were basically getting up and saying really mean things about gun owners and people that carry guns, and it was really weird because they're like, I'm afraid of these people that are, they're unbalanced and blah 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 blah, and I was like, wait a minute, you're saying all of these things to these people, and you're standing in a room with a bunch of armed people. Like, we all have guns. It's legal to carry them into the Capitol. We went through the special line. That was the best part. The Texas State Capitol in Austin has a special line for people with concealed handgun licenses where you just show them your license and they wave you in. It's beautiful. and like, all of these pacifist jackasses are in the long line, and we're just like, CHL, you're in. CHL, you're in. CHL, you're in. It was great. But like, there's a bunch of people. There's this guy standing up in a room, in the middle of a room, saying really mean things about me and my friends, about how he's afraid that we'll shoot him, and how he's afraid that he'll say something mean to us and we'll shoot him, and he's saying that to our faces, and we're all armed, and none of us shot him. He's fine. It's very weird because it's a really, like, well, if you shot him there, you wouldn't get away with it. If I shot him in a classroom, I wouldn't get away with it either.
Yeah, I mean, people that like open fire in public places, they tend to get found.
Yeah, they don't hide very well usually. There's usually a strong incentive to find them. And if it's a populated place, it's not like there aren't a million witnesses.
Yeah,
it's very ridiculous. Like, we actually had a shooting on campus before guns on campus were legal, and one of the professors that witnessed the shooting, where calling it a shooting is so what happened? Oh wait, they actually interviewed Mike Cargill. He's a friend of mine. Mike Cargill is in Austin. He was also interviewed by NPR, so that's good. They actually quoted him. Nice. But yeah, no, there was a professor, and like so what happened is that this guy was suicidal, and he brought an AK-47 style rifle onto campus and shot it a bunch in the air, and then went up into the top of the library and shot himself. Basically, is what I understand happened. And so nobody was hurt but the shooter, and his wound was self-inflicted. But there was a professor who like dove under a bench and was so scared that someone else might try to shoot the guy that was shooting. He's like, oh, I don't, if they could, and this is also the guy who quit, I think, actually.
Wait, was he the one that was interviewed and he said, yeah, he said that he was more terrified that someone else might start trying to shoot the
Yeah, him.
Yeah, that
it's a really weird, like, phobic reaction. Like, it's not rational. It doesn't make any sense. It's like a weird neurosis or something that some people have, that they just see these, pieces of metal and plastic as some kind of magical object that will, hurt them somehow, even if the person who's using it doesn't have any desire to hurt them. It's really weird.
Well, I mean,
and the funniest part is that he said that he was so terrified that someone might have a gun nearby, but what he didn't realize, because another thing that gun control advocates always do is they always don't know the law. So they always advocate for things that are already the law, and then say, well, we need new laws to do this, and we'll also have the law do this other thing that, just don't worry about that. We want the law to do this. Well, the law already does that. They just want the law to do something else that's a little bit more underhanded usually. But like the gun law in Texas before the campus carry passed only counted for the insides of buildings on campus. So, in theory, a person could put a gun on their hip, conceal it with a license, and walk across campus as long as they don't go into any buildings, they're not legally they're not in any legal trouble. Now, what could happen? Now, what would happen is that if you were a student, the university would expel you if they found out that you did that, right? So there's definitely a incentive not to do that, but for a non-student, there's literally nothing that the university can do, and there's nothing that the police can do either because you're not breaking the law, you're not going inside the buildings. So in theory, there might have been a person walking around. There's no legal reason why there couldn't have been a person walking around with a gun there. I mean, he might walk by 100 people with guns every single day and not realize it because, contrary to the belief of a lot of these people, it's pretty darned easy to conceal a pistol.
Well, yeah. I mean, shoot, how many concealed carry people do I know? I know at least 7 or 8 concealed carry people, and I am sure at times that they have had their gun on them, and I couldn't have picked it out.
Yeah, I mean, it can be hard if you're a really skinny person that wears tight clothes. That's about it. And even then, there's holsters that you can get that are good for that.
That's actually the part that creeps me out.
What?
I'm just picturing
skinny people wearing tight clothes.
Well, I'm picturing the like someone with a concealed pistol in skinny jeans.
It's a hobby that I picked up that I really enjoy, and I also really enjoy learning about it. Guns are cool. They have a lot of history behind them, and they're intricate little machines that do all kinds of neat things and have springs, and you can take them apart and put them back together, and they'll still work. And
unlike people, that doesn't work at all.
Well, I mean, I don't know how many of those UFO sighting things do you believe? Right? They take people apart and put them back together, or something.
UFOs. Well, now you're talking science. I don't. That's beyond me. Science fiction counts as science, right?
Yes. It has the word science in it. It must be science.
Like popular science.
like Scientology.
Yeah. It all makes sense now.
It all comes together.
Oh, that might be a discussion for another day, but I'm never going to let go of that one. Just the whole disconnect between actual science and people who read popular science and think they know science.
Well, I mean, popular science is a layman's digest of scientific stuff.
Well, nowadays, if it's even still around, the last I checked, it wasn't even that. It was more like an advertisement for a bunch of toys.
You might be thinking of the Edmund Scientific's catalog.
Possibly. I don't know.
I mean, Popular Science is a magazine.
Yeah.
It has articles in it which describe in layman terms. At least it did when I was a kid. It has articles in it that describe in layman's terms, recent scientific advances.
I stopped reading it when I was a kid, so I don't know anymore.
I mean, they have ad space. They're a magazine. They have ad space, and one of their advertisers was very frequently Edmund Scientific's, which does do science-based toys. They're kind of the big company for that. I mean, I've bought a lot of stuff from them, honestly, because I like science toys. They're fun. But
they sell guns?
I don't think they sell guns. Popular Mechanics used to have articles about guns, but they probably don't anymore.
Yeah, I think. I think we don't want to delve into every aspect of guns when we could drag that out into like 4 different podcasts.
Sure.
Possibly 20, because that was pretty good. I mean, I didn't have much to offer though, other than my attempts at parody.
Well, no, I mean it's. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to learn. I mean, you can pick. The cool thing about guns is that one cool thing about guns is that there's so many different ones, and there's so many different makers, and there's so many different time frames that they were made, that you can pick something obscure and learn all about it, and you can be an expert in that. So there's a famous story, Lawrence of Arabia, right?
Never heard of it.
You never heard of Lawrence of Arabia?
Of course I have. Go on.
Okay. He always carried around a single-action army pistol. And the reason that he did that is because one night he went to sleep and he woke up and someone had grabbed the gun and was trying to use it to shoot him. And the reason that he survived that encounter and was able to stop the guy is because the single-action army was complex enough that the guy couldn't figure out how to shoot Lawrence with it in time before Lawrence stopped him.
Is that why you chose that gun as one of your first guns?
No, I chose it because I liked the aesthetics of it, and I liked the idea that it was something that I had to think about a little bit and learn how to use safely before I could, use it. I figured that if I could use it safely, that I could use any gun safely.
Okay.
Then there's influence from popular culture and video games and stuff. I mean, I won't say that I'm completely immune to that stuff.
I have a sheer wall between what I do and what I experience.
The things that I like and the things that I do are completely separate. I do not let them... I never do anything with anything that I like, and I never like anything that I do.
Oh.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that people, myself included, have some weird desire to separate things like that and say, "Oh, well, I chose this gun for completely rational reasons that have nothing to do with things that I enjoy." And it's like, that's stupid.
Oh God, that was it. That was it.
What?
It wasn't today. It was 2 or 3 days ago. On NPR, they were doing a TED Talk. And the subject of the talk is there anything that's actually original? I almost swerved off the road. Now, I admit that my influence for swerving off the road had come from somewhere else, but it's like all they were basically saying for the whole thing was like, oh, well, these people that wrote things, they were influenced by other things. Yes, you have experiences, and then you do things with those experiences. Anyone that cannot figure this out isn't going to understand, isn't going to know how to spell TED, much less.
Well, it's one of those postmodernism things, is what it is. Is that there's this school of thought that, oh, everything's already been done, so there's no point in really doing anything at this point because everything's been done, and so it's just kind of like a self-defeating philosophy where. Or what it does is, or what the other side of that coin is that people start doing some things that are ridiculously absurd, and not like absurd in a way that is funny or interesting, but just like kind of weird and sad. So
to make the claim that things are completely original is to deny the existence of mankind in its entirety, because you would have to go all the way back to the time at which some dude was standing around and he's like, oh, why is this on fire? Hey, this is pretty warm, and then it's like this happens like several times, and then he figures out, oh, if I can make that happen, then I can be warm all the time, and so it takes a while, but he figures out how to make fire.
Well,
and that can't happen unless you're going off of the past information.
Well, it's not just that, but it's like, okay, who was it? I forget who it was, but there was some famous philosopher back in like the 1700s or 1800s who was worried that we would run out of music because there's only a limited number of notes. Like, the purpose of music is not the notes. The purpose of music is the combinations of the notes, and you can iterate things to make different combinations in a, I mean, of course, a song
no. Now you've got me thinking that there's like an OPEC of music.
All songs will be limited to 6 notes. I mean, in a world where songs were limited to 6 notes, running out of music would be a thing that happened. There'd be a limited amount of music that could occur.
Well, we could regulate the notes in music.
What's that?
We could just regulate the notes in music.
Well, they already... I mean, I'm sure that the government has regulations on music. Well, do you think the government doesn't accredit music schools?
Good point. Good.
Exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous because the whole point of creativity is I mean, I could just spew random sounds, but it wouldn't be language, right? The purpose of language is the combinations of sounds to make words, which represent ideas and things, right? It's
yeah, but in another 10 years, we're going to be out of vocabulary.
Well, in another 10 years, the average American's vocabulary will probably be like 150 words. So
I mean, I think haven't we? Don't we have like a government reserve that they can open up in case that some of our vocabulary isn't flowing in from overseas?
yeah, there's a salt mine that they fill with unused words in hopes that one day we will need those words and pull them back out. No, but it's like saying, well, this story isn't original because it has a person in it. And people are things that the author's obviously seen. It's like, it's not, the building blocks are not where the originality comes from. The building blocks are, you put them together in a way that they haven't been put together before, and that's what originality is. And so the whole idea that, there's nothing truly original because, this guy, it's basically saying that, you made something? Well, if I can analyze it, then it's not original. Because if I can analyze it, that means that it comes from things that I have experience in or can define in some set of words. Which is just it's just nihilistic nonsense.
It's nice to think that someone somewhere has an idea that is completely original and can't be analyzed in any manner whatsoever, and so they just present this to someone, and this person, they take it and they look at it, and then their brain just sort of freezes up and they can't move anymore.
Well, no, but the only thing that's original is gibberish, and even gibberish isn't original because it uses phonemes that aren't original. Like, in order for something to be original, it would have to be something that in order for something to be original to these people,
It would have to be the voice of Cthulhu, basically.
No, because that was written because Cthulhu's things that Cthulhu says were written by H.P. Lovecraft. Right?
Let's assume that he couldn't actually write what Cthulhu actually says, and that was just his attempt.
Well, no, but I mean, like, the things that Cthulhu said would be words, albeit in a different language, right? That doesn't make them original. They'd still mean I intend to eat all of mankind or whatever, right?
This is hopeless because we're already analyzing it.
Exactly. In order to judge something at all, you have to analyze it. That's what analysis is. And so the notion that
wait. Let's be fair. In order to judge something, you do not necessarily have to analyze it. I mean, we just had a conversation about people's thoughts on guns.
The analysis can be extremely glib and incorrect. Like, you can what's a good example of something that is currently being analyzed stupidly?
Stock markets?
Sure. Oh, okay. So yeah, you could have someone say, I like a $15 minimum wage because it makes me feel good, right? That's really bad analysis, but it is analysis. The analysis is, changing this, policy gives me warm fuzzies inside the, stupid ball that I call my heart, or whatever it is they say it is, right? That's analysis. It just doesn't actually give any useful information for anybody else, right?
Well, since it's analysis and it's not original, can we just ignore it? Because screw things that aren't original.
Well, if you're a postmodernist, then you can ignore it.
So, wow, that actually creates a pretty big pickle for us, because that means only postmodernists get to ignore this $15 minimum wage bullcrap.
Well, that'll be to their credit in the sense that they'll actually be able to be employed. I mean, what else is a postmodernist going to do? We talked about this before, but wages are not decided in a vacuum. Your wages are not determined by your employer throwing a dart at a board. Your wages are determined by something called the discounted marginal value product of the things that you produce by your labor. If the discounted marginal value product of your labor is less than $15 an hour, then you will not be employed if the minimum wage is $15 an hour. You need to either find something to do that is worth that much, or you need someone to point a gun at the head of somebody else and tell them to pay you more than you're worth to do something that you can do.
Maybe all these people should just go let off some steam at the gun range.
Well, it is nice to do that every once in a while. It is kind of fun to mag dump into a fresh target every once in a while. But I'm personally more of a accuracy shooter. Like that's why I like bullseye pistol and 3-position rifle.
I would probably be shooting a pistol if I was at a range, but I'm a rifle person myself.
Yeah, well, I
Insofar
mean,
as I know, I mean, I don't really
the
go out
cool
shooting.
thing about the world of guns is that you can shoot everything and enjoy everything.
Now there's a quote
done,
that can be taken out of context.
No, but I mean, I've done sporting clays, I've done 3-position rifle, I've done action pistol, I've done bullseye pistol, I've done steel challenge. I mean, it's all fun. So do it all, everything. Don't pigeonhole yourself.
Be original.
Yeah, be original.
It was a TED Talk.
Well, was it a TED Talk or was it a TEDx Talk or something like that?
What's the difference?
A TEDx Talk is not actually like sponsored by the organization that does TED. It's just like some jackass giving a talk that they put TEDx in front of. I mean, I think anybody can give a TEDx talk, but TED Talks actually have to be like, vetted.
It probably wasn't vetted. If it was, I don't want to know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't watch enough TED Talks to know how sensible they usually are about that. I mean, someone giving a talk about the question of whether anything is original is not necessarily I mean, you can use that question as a springboard to discuss what archetypes are, and to list some archetypes, and to talk about how these archetypes exist in popular and modern and slightly less modern culture, right? Like, we had a discussion about the archetype of the hero when we were talking about Batman versus Superman, and the archetype of the hero has several elements, and not every character that is that is a hero character follows every point of the archetypal hero, right? Like my definition of the archetypal hero had a lot more of a sacrificial role in it than yours did, right?
Right.
I said that it's walking into danger and facing it, and you said, well, no, it's getting out of the way of the door as it closes on you, and so we disagreed there slightly.
Well, I don't know if we really disagreed. I think okay, so and now we're back on Batman and Superman. Okay, so
we don't have to actually talk about Batman and Superman. We're talking about archetypes of heroes.
Okay, so the point that I was trying to make is that yes, he does dive headlong into danger to save people, but on the same token, like there's no indication that as he's doing so that he is ever prepared for the possibility that someone has kryptonite. Like it's a thing that you should get used to over time. It's
right.
It's something like you can still dive headlong into the danger, but now you know that there might be kryptonite, so it's like you're mentally prepared for it.
Is that what you're saying? Is that Superman has a significant portion of him, which is the archetypal blockhead?
Yes,
but that's not the same as the archetypal hero. I mean, and of course, my definition of the archetypal hero doesn't work very well for Superman either, because as an invulnerable person, he is incapable of personal sacrifice. So, like, he can't give his life to save someone. He just saves someone.
Yeah, because like Batman does dive headlong into danger, but he's also ready for the danger.
Well, Batman is not an archetypal hero. I mean, he's been called a dark hero in the sense that he is on the wrong side of the law and such and such and such. I mean, that's the thing about literature, is that you can analyze it and talk about it in terms of things that are understood by other people. Like, that's the whole point of argument and debate, is to get your ideas out there and then have someone else look at them and say, well, I think this makes sense, but I don't think this makes sense. And are you really using the right definition for this? Well, let's define this more clearly, right? Like, the whole point of argument and debate is to clarify, not obfuscate. And the notion, and just someone just standing up and saying nothing's original anymore, and maybe never has been, doesn't illuminate anything. It only obfuscates. Now, if he had a debate with someone and they actually discussed what definitions of these terms they're using, there might be something fruitful there. But if someone just stands up and says nothing's original because it's all based on other things, that doesn't help.
Well, I mean, we are analyzing this pretty deeply, so we're not being very original for a start. But
I mean, depends on your definition of original.
Well, I mean, there's some people whose goal is to obfuscate rather than.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you don't have a good argument, then obfuscation is your best bet.
But I don't know anyone that would actually do that.
I do. I dealt with gun control advocates as part of my daily thing. That's all they do is obfuscate.
Uh, did Will Smith die?
What? I hope not.
Okay, so I was going to pull up the news here and see if I could come up with any last-minute subjects that we could go over. And there's something here that says, police, Will Smith had loaded gun in car on night he was killed.
What? No.
Oh, former
No.
New Orleans Saints star, Will Smith.
Oh, okay, a basketball
I
person.
was wondering why they were showing his face, and I thought it was a cop. I thought it was like they had the face of a cop instead of the face of Will Smith.
I see him. Okay. Yeah, he died April 9th, 2016.
Panama raids offices of Mossack Fonseca law firm. It sounds like Maxine Remington is getting up to trouble. North Carolina governor wants part of rights law changed, but most intact. Is that like some really complicated way of saying, I want to take some of your rights away, but not all of them?
Basically, it must be something like that. He's a governor. This is the only language he speaks.
I need your rights. Put them in the bucket.
I need your rights. Your rights. Give them to me.
Why are world powers unable to stop Boko Haram?
Unable is the wrong word. I mean, they quote world powers, end of quotation, have at their disposal several thousand nuclear warheads. They could stop Boko Haram. Now, they don't want to. They don't want to use nukes on Boko Haram because there'd be a lot of, horrible civilian collateral damage. But
and you can only do that
like,
once in history and get away with it.
Well, you can only be the first person to do that in history before anybody else can, and then you can't ever again. But no, I mean, it's not a question of, see that that's such a bad article title because it's like it's begging the question, right? It's saying, well, we should stop Boko Haram, but we aren't, so we can't. So why not? It's like, well, because stopping Boko Haram, because you're being short-sighted. You can't just stop you can't just get a big octagonal red sign and go up to Boko Haram and say stop. You have to do something that causes them to stop. What are they doing that we want to stop? They're human trafficking or what? I don't know. But well, human trafficking is a set of actions that you can do things that make it harder to, or make it less profitable to traffic in humans. Some of those things, and there's things that we could do to stop Boko Haram that I'm sure that if we told him, oh, well, we could do this to stop Boko Haram, he'd be like, oh, we probably shouldn't do that because that goes against my personal beliefs about the, ethical use of military force, right?
Right.
So, it's a silly article. It's just basically moral preening. And
well, here's a sillier one then.
Okay.
U.S. military campaign takes toll on ISIS cash flow. It was just yesterday that NPR was talking about how ISIS has cash coming in from everywhere.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, they're selling drugs, they're doing this, they just listed off all these things yesterday, and then it's like,
well, the funny thing about ISIS is that they've kind of basically become, if they weren't an enemy of the state, the state would call them a legitimate state. They charge taxes, they provide services, they, have an army. That's kind of what a state is. So it's funny, but they kind of are a country now, and for another country to be confused at them doing things that countries do is kind of weird.
Well, I mean that's probably the best way to stop them is just at this point. It's just like, okay, fine, they're a government now. Now they'll set their own rules that they have to follow, and there'll be so much infighting that they might just stop being, psychos. I mean, they won't. They won't because they'll be, a country.
What we should do is we should put them on the UN Human Rights Council. Is what we ought to do.
I don't even know where to begin with that. Yes, we should. It's the only thing that makes sense now. The only thing.
It's all there is.